Final hour overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Doug, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan, Leafs Kings tonight, and Chandler Parsons later in the hour. I saw a clip going viral of LeBron's new podcast with JJ Redick on sacrifice and what he's done throughout his career. Pretty insightful clip.
Why do they need the wall of wine there? Like, is that like a prop? I just don't know what I think about it. And I used to like wine. I like people who like wine. Mm-hmm. But are you showing off that you like wine and you drink expensive wine? I didn't
get it either. It's LeBron's thing. Like, that's his prop. Like, he's a wine guy. But I guess that is trying to give off a vibe like they're so relaxed. Oh, the cameras are here. I didn't even notice. We're just enjoying a bottle of red.
He walked into a game injured a couple of years ago with a glass of red.
One of the most outrageous moves in pro sports history. Yeah. In pro sports history.
Yeah. Like, can you imagine Phil Kessel not playing, walking into it with a Coors Light and a pair of jogging shorts on?
Yes, I can. And that's why I love Phil. I'd love to see that. But we'll try to play that. We'll get into it with Chandler, get his take on what's going on with the Raps, and they're in action tonight. And Tom Curran's coming up in about 10 minutes. This new Dynasty documentary's come out. It's causing a big stir.
What is the main controversy about? Because you think a team that's done so much winning, it would all be like, that guy came through in that game, and then that guy came through, and Brady's awesome. And now it's controversy? I find it to be weird.
Yeah, controversy may not be the right word, but it's being labeled as kind of a Belichick hit piece. And some of the former Pats are coming out and saying, wait a minute, I was interviewed thinking that it was all about the winning.
Who's hitting them, though?
Well, I guess the insinuation is it's Robert Kraft. Is that Kraft is involved, and it's trying to make Kraft look good as opposed to Belichick. But, at the same time, in a documentary, you've got to play the hits. You got to have an episode on Deflategate. That was a massive story.
Yes, of course.
Spygate and all, like those. Yes, I get they're negative in nature, but they were very compelling.
And I would like to know behind the scenes what happened. Did Tom Brady say, deflate those footballs because they're better for me? Or what the hell happened? I'll tell you what you are. You're a good salesman because now I'm going to watch it.
Well, exactly,
yeah.
and
I'm watching it.
It sells itself. It's gonna be something you enjoy. You're a sports fan. It's the Patriots, but Tom will join us in about 10. We'll get his take on that. Leafs in Washington tonight. In the last 20 minutes, news is broken that TJ Brodie will be a healthy scratch tonight, which I find very, very interesting. I mean, I think it's something that is totally justified. His play, he's really struggled all year. But I also think the Leafs, what they've done on a couple of occasions this year with a couple of different players, is allow them to kind of reset and come back and find a role. And Ilya Samsonov obviously is the most obvious example of that, where it's worked out incredibly well. They even did that with Ryan Reeves, which didn't get as much play because Reeves had kind of played himself out of the lineup and then he got injured. But he did. There was a time 2 months ago where we weren't sure we were going to see him play.
We thought he
again.
was done. I thought he was on Robida Island. I swear, I thought he was on Robida. Like, I thought he was done with the organization. Personally,
I agree. I thought the same thing.
Too. Remember, he came back. There were some comments. He's like, "I can play. I want to play." Remember, like that. That kind of went away in about a day too.
Right, because they played him. Right, because you're right. He was kind of indicating, I don't know, I'm on IR, but I shouldn't be. I'm fine. And then it was like, uh-oh. And then before you know it, he's back in the lineup. I think he scored his first game back, and he hasn't been out since, although he's out tonight because of the eye injury. So the Leafs have a recent history for different reasons of kind of hitting the reset button. And I think it's mandatory to do it with Brodie. I would assume it's only one game. But I think it's in their best interest, and I think it's in his best interest to take a step back, breathe a little bit, take a night off. And once you get him back, though, that's where it's going to get interesting. Like when Reeves returned, you knew he was returning on the fourth line. Like he wasn't playing up the lineup. That wasn't going to happen. Samsonov, if he returned, he'd have to play because you only have two goalies on the roster. But with Brodie, if he's in the lineup, there's 6 different roles for him. He can be the number 1 defenseman or the 6th defenseman or somewhere in between.
There's only one factor that's important to all of this transaction. Do you know what that is?
What's that?
Is how much this stings TJ Brodie personally. He's probably got $40 million in the bank. Is he going to go home Is he going to walk off the ice after morning skate, after bag skating with the assistant coaches and smash the stick in half? He seems like a happy-go-lucky guy, but it's the most important part of him being scratched is how much he hates it. I remember my dad saying to me in junior hockey, and I wasn't the one being scratched, but all the scratches were just walking around eating popcorn, laughing and joking, and he said, if you're ever scratched and I see you walking around like that, smiling and acting all like everything's fun, and my dad's obviously old school, he said, I don't ever want to see it because you got to be pissed off that you're not in the lineup. I don't know how pissed off he'll be, and it's going to be a big factor in what the response is in coming back. Because if you scratch some journeyman who's making minimum wage and he's dying to get back in the lineup, you'll see that guy come out of that tunnel like a lightning bolt, hit everything that moves, compete, don't lose a battle. When me and Jamie were in the league, if you scratched a veteran guy, automatic. Curtis Decision, if he got scratched one time, a veteran guy like that, fight in practice next day, automatic. They're going to fight somebody. And I know that doesn't happen anymore, and that probably sounds stupid to people. But that was how pissed off people were because it was their livelihood, and it's like your job's at stake, and it's like, where's this going to go? And they took it personally, and there was a response. Let's see what the response is from this guy. Because he just seems like a cool, casual guy where it's like, I'll shrug that off. I'm fascinated to see his response. I'm not saying he won't respond. I'm fascinated to see what it will be.
This is probably, I would have to check, guys. I don't know if he's been healthy scratched before.
First time.
That's the thing.
So let's see the response. That's why I brought it up. That's the most important thing is how pissed off he is that this has happened. I thought that was one of my better ISO comments.
Very good take.
Very good take. And it is a good take. It's the right take because if he hasn't been scratched before, this is uncharted territory. He isn't, Hayes, you said, he's not 26. He's 33. So, he has to adapt his game. He's still getting top minutes, so he has to find a way. And like Sheldon said, he's playing against some pretty damn good players every night. We ask a lot of him. We expect more of him. So he's got to have, whether it's a one-game reset or a 1 week, whatever it is going to be, I would argue they'll probably have him right back in against Edmonton. They're going to need him, down the stretch here against really good teams. So, we'll see how he responds. I think it's, guys who get healthy scratch, they get embarrassed. It's going to be a big story. Couturier, you could see it on his face yesterday. Mm-hmm. He was disappointed. He was embarrassed, all of that. Everyone had a comment about it. Dubinsky on Twitter today making comments about Torts and all of that. Like there's people all over that have their opinion on it. But John Tortorella pressed a button yesterday. It worked for his team in a vacuum, in a one-game
And it's the
scenario.
same thing about your coach at all times, and he's not even our coach. We don't have a coach. J-Mac's our coach. Steph's our coach. You don't have to like them, but you got to respect what they're doing. And that's just how it works.
Yeah. Well,
there were times where I hated Peter Laviolette's guts, hated Paul Maurice's guts, but you got to respect them. And I took it personally, and I usually responded and played better.
Yeah, I mean, coaches, they're trying to press all the buttons here. And
that's all they're trying to do. That's their job, is to try to get you to play your best.
The thing is, though, my question to both of you is, if there wasn't the scratch of Couturier, do you think Brodie would be scratched today? Because I think it kind of goes hand in hand. Like
it might have turned a smaller light off upstairs. Where
it's possible. Wrong, I mean, listen, I think Tortorella is, I don't know if he's his mentor, but he played for him in Tampa. Tortorella always sticks up for Keefe. He goes out of his way to do it. He may have taken a page out of Tortorella's book here. It'll have the same response. I mean, Couturier in that Flyers room, incredibly well respected, and a vet. Brodie, the same thing. He's been here for 4 years. This guy has played a lot of games in the league. He's very well liked. Like, this will have the boys on notice. Like, Brodie's out tonight. This isn't Noah Gregor coming out. This is TJ Brodie. This is a guy that plays a ton of hockey on the top pair, and he's coming out, and he's coming out as a healthy scratch based on the production, right? Not based on missing a meeting or anything like that. It's you're healthy, but you're not playing well enough, and it's not good enough, so you're coming out. And I think it's a smart play. Again, they're calling it a reset. They're calling it a breather. I think it's totally warranted. Something's got to change. I'd like to believe this will put on notice the other guys too, right? Like the other players on this team.
Message.
Like now's the time. You got to spark. You got a cattle prod, man. You're a month away from the playoffs. Can't get complacent. Can't just think, we're cruising. We'll see who we play. We're starting on the road. You got to gear up. You got 15 games left. You got to start playing your best hockey and click in a month.
Yeah.
And that's the priority for this guy. And it should be. It's got to be for Keefe.
It's funny you say that, Brian. Jim Montgomery's comments yesterday to the media and all that, like in his availability, wasn't even talking about the Ottawa game. He was talking about the big picture and how he wanted his team to be ready, how he wanted, how he was looking at matchups, how he was looking at trying different things with the players that he had, and some guys, like, it was big picture comment. It was like, hey, yeah, we've got Ottawa tonight, we got, all of that, but it was like, I'm trying this guy in this scenario because we're going to see how these matchups are going to, we got to get everybody playing, how we're going to match up in the playoffs. That he was talking big picture. So what you're talking about, Brian, and I think this is what we've been talking about for 2 hours, is big picture. You got to have the guys that you rely on nightly. TJ Brodie's been there for 4 years, playing their best at the right time. So this is the start of it right now.
Yep, this is the start of it. And, you mentioned Jim Montgomery down in Boston. Now he's, I don't know, is he the man in Boston? He might be, right? It was Belichick, though, for the better part of 24 years, and Belichick's not there anymore. And we referenced that Dynasty's out, the 10-part documentary on Apple, and a lot of buzz about this and what it's saying about Belichick, about the Dynasty, about Robert Kraft, a lot of former players coming out and speaking on it, and to chat about it and the reaction to it. We head down to Boston now and catch up with Pat's insider from NBC Sports in Boston. Here's Tom Curran. How you doing, Tom?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me on. How you doing?
We're doing very well. Thank you for doing this. We've been kind of fascinated by the Patriots like everyone else, from afar for the better part of 20 years. And this documentary comes out, and, we've noticed that it feels as if some of, the former players and Patriots fans are describing this as like somewhat of a Belichick hit piece. Do you read it the same way? Did you see it the same way when you watched it?
I can see why people would take offense at the fact that Bill is gone, and it does feel as if it's, tossing more dirt on his grave after he leaves. And, the indignity of that, I think, is probably factoring into this significantly. If Bill was still here and presiding over the team, I don't think that the outcry would be as great. I think that certainly there's I don't want to call it romanticizing of it, but I do think that the eulogy is barely done in people's ears for Bill's time here, which was the greatest run in American professional sports history. And no offense to Scotty Bowman, maybe in any, North American sports history as a head coach. And we could go around and around about all the other individuals, but when this is called The Dynasty, and it's a 10-part documentary that is 400 minutes, there's going to be more untold stories. And the untold stories are going to involve why did it fall apart? And in plumbing that and asking those questions, guys are going to speak bluntly about that and then say, oh, yeah, I did say that. Oh, well, it doesn't sound that good now, does it?
Are you surprised? I don't know if surprise is the right way to phrase the question, but it seems like with so much winning that went on, that it would just be about like winning games, and this guy stepped up. And I know the stories behind the scenes are fascinating, but it just seemed like it would be about how awesome Brady is and how they did so much winning, and and this guy was great during that game, and the ugly stuff kind of rears its head. Does that kind of surprise you a little bit?
It doesn't. And this is the simple reason for it. Every time they won a Super Bowl, they did one of those do-your-job, 1-hour-long documentaries charting all the coaching decisions made. They did all the America's game. All those stories have been told about the genius of, the defensive game plan in the 2018 Super Bowl, or the things that happened in the comeback in 2016. These are the stories that weren't told. And with Apple TV and the documentary producer and director, I think they're interested in trying to, again, plumb the depths of why did it go sideways? What were the elements to the personalities that saw this dynasty toward the end become somewhat dysfunctional to the point where people wanted to literally get away from each other? I mean, Gronk and Tom Brady and Rodney and Devin McCourty can all talk about how much they respected Bill and how much they couldn't have gotten their brains around ever being the player that they wouldn't have been without Bill. But especially in the cases of Gronk and Tom Brady and others, they could not wait to get away from the atmosphere that had really decorated and loomed over the last few years of their time here.
Tom, was this basically, and you hear stories, we're connected to the National Hockey League. You hear stories of championship teams where, you on the surface, everything looks amazing. But what you're describing is this seems like a very dysfunctional situation, but they were just really good at their jobs and they found a way to win. Is that kind of what has been, has shaken out here in this documentary?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say to an extent, no. You're going to have personality differences. But I think the thread that runs through from Belichick to Brady, and I would include Kraft in that, but really Belichick and Brady was a sublimation of their egos for a long time to chase excellence, to become the very best they could, kick over every rock, explore every nuance and innovation that they could to become better. Brady with his health and his fundamentals, which only got better and better and better. Belichick with managing salary caps, managing motivation, managing and evolving his offense so that it went week to week. We just do one thing all the time. So that thread is the thicker thread running through the Patriots dynasty than the personalities that you will have when what Tom needed to do personally to buy into the way Bill did things was to subjugate his ego over and over and over again and to be just a guy. And part of that means you're always replaceable. And when Tom attained a place where he said, I shouldn't be replaceable, though. I'm 40. I'm the best there's ever been. I just won my 5th Super Bowl. Why are we doing this to me still? And kind of, self-awareness or self-realization that I don't have to live like this, and he keeps making me live like this. And Bill would be like, well, it worked last decade. Why is it not working now? Because people change.
With Tom Curran, NBC Sports down in Boston, Dynasty's out, a 10-part documentary on Apple. And, you look at the reputation of I guess, the three patriarchs, if you want to call it that, or pillars of the organization over 20 years, Brady, Belichick, and the owner, Robert Kraft. When Brady left, I would assume, 100% approval rating, immediately goes to Tampa, wins the Super Bowl. Wow, look at that. Belichick, it got a little bit ugly for him the last 2 or 3 years, clearly. I don't know if he'll get another opportunity to redeem himself somewhere else. He missed out on this coaching cycle. We'll see if he returns to the NFL next year. But Kraft is still there, and there was a Players Association poll that came out recently, and they graded horribly in New England, in terms of the facilities and a number of different things. I've noticed from afar in social media, not a perfect science by any means, but I get the impression a lot of Pats fans are kind of insinuating that Kraft is trying to prop himself up here and maybe make Belichick look bad or whatever. And Kraft is still there. Now he was the owner. He was the one that brought it all together and hired Belichick, and he was there and they won. But this Pats team's a mess. Like, they are a mess, and I don't know when they're going to turn it around. What does he still have at stake, if anything at all, Robert Kraft, in terms of his reputation in the market?
It's a great question. I think there's an exceptional amount of backlash toward Robert Kraft currently because he has always been, in his first iteration as the owner with Bill Parcells as the head coach, he was seen, people would call him Red Light Bob. Every time there was a camera on, he was in front of it. And their contention was, we're trying to build a team and build a franchise from the dumpster fire that it was into one that people took seriously. And I assent to that. I get the motivation. But he did take a back seat and let Bill and Tom be the drivers behind it. And I think it got to Robert where those two were credited so often that he would say, do you know why they continue to work together despite all their dysfunction personally at this juncture? Because of me. I'm the one who did this. I'm the one who keeps them together. I'm the one who continues to go back and forth between these two legendary people with egos and personality conflicts and keep it together. And I think that when the book Dynasty by Jeff Benedict was put out, Jeff went directly to Robert Kraft to first ask. And I think that Robert saw the book as a great opportunity. Hey, here's my story. Here's how I did things. And in so doing, I don't think he was cognizant enough, especially in the documentary, of saying enough times, but I wanted Bill to be our guy. But I trusted Bill. But I put my faith in Bill. And did he screw up at times? No doubt. But I love him, and he was our guy. And I think he missed the opportunity to do that. You guys all remember the movie A Few Good Men?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Belichick was Jack Nicholson, sitting on the stands. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
Right.
And you can't handle the truth, Robert. You can't handle the truth of what it takes to build a team that succeeds at this level. And the truth is, I kind of have to be a dink on a fairly regular basis. Sorry, that's how it's got to be done. And that, I think, is what folks in the marketplace are looking at. Well, Robert, you rode the coattails of these two, and now you're doing a credit grab. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do think that Robert Kraft miscalculated in having a tell-all documentary that didn't have some people say, whoa. Are we going overboard, making Bill look like an ogre? And people would say, well, he was an ogre.
Right.
But you still had all that success.
He still won.
I mean, I think a lot of the players are trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube because just like you guys probably had hockey coaches who were brutal to you, and you couldn't wait to get off their team at some point. And then you look back, that guy was great for me. And that's how these guys feel now. They don't want to have a damaged relationship with him going forward. And I don't think anyone does. He's the greatest coach of all time.
Yep. I concur with all that. It's a fascinating story that's not going to end just because this 10-piece documentary's out. I mean, it's just going to continue to supply more and more content as we move on with the next step of Belichick, Brady, et cetera. Really great catching up with you, Tom. We appreciate the insight, man. We'll do it again down the road.
All right. Thanks for having me. Take care, guys.
You got it. Tom Curran of NBC Sports down in Boston.
And one thing people need to understand is some coaches, and I would assume it's more of an old school philosophy, and I'm not sure if it was Pat Burns that came out with this line, but you see the way you get fired in this business. They lose a bunch of games, you get fired. So some coaches' philosophy is screw with the players first, because if they start screwing with you, you're fired. Mm-hmm. So you better get in there and screw with them and do what you want to do, because once it's their turn, you're done. You're gone. Screw with them before they start screwing with you, or you're on your ass and you're out the door and you don't have a job. So.
And a lot of these coaches, they're not there to be your friend. They're trying to win. And that's the one thing I get frustrated because you see people talking about, hardened coaches, he's not treating him this. And coach is trying to win. He's trying to get the most out of you. He's pressing buttons. This is what they do. This is how they try and motivate. It's tough, especially, you talk about the Daryl Sutters and the John Tortorellas and the Babses. Yes, there's lines of respect that you still have to work within. But ultimately, a lot of players look back and go, yeah, that guy was an unbelievable coach. I told you guys, we were at the Kippersoft thing the other day. Daryl Sutter walked in the room. 15 guys stood up, literally stood up and had a receiving line for him. Like that's how much respect and clout a guy like that has. But they didn't love him on a daily basis because if Daryl was hard on you, it was tough. It was tough. Belichick's probably the same way. These guys would be pissed off in the moment, but they look back and go, that guy made me a better player. That guy got me a championship. That guy was a big part of me staying in the league how many years. So I'm sure there's guys that probably misspoke in this situation and going, that didn't come out the way I wanted it to. That's what what Tom was kind of alluding to,
Well, and you also don't have the ability to have final say on what's going to be in the doc and what's not. What will be edited and what's not. And you're hearing that from former players. So, I sat down for 5-6 hours and they used 2 clips.
You grabbed that one thing that I said.
Yeah, and that's to be, I guess, fair and honest about the way the documentary works. And the producers, that's what they want. They want the one thing, and they're like, that's what's going in. You know what I mean? They're not here to make friends either. They're here to make a documentary that's going to get a ton of views.
Yeah.
And if you're putting together 400 hours, in a 10-piece, you're going to do it on a lot of stories that are going to drive conversations, like the Flake, the Aaron Hernandez story obviously is, a part of this, among others, which is a completely different context. But, yeah, Belichick, it's true. It's like parenting. There's certain jobs too where it's not about rosy atmospheres. It's about inspiration. You run on emotion. you poke, you prod. Sometimes you have to treat players differently, and that's also what comes out of it. And different players have different viewpoints. But, Belichick, you can't dispute the fact. He won a ton. So he's just an unbelievable coach. All right, the Raptors back in action tonight. The Leafs back in action tonight. We'll get to our best bets brought to you by FanDuel coming up. And obviously every day we announce our Maple Leaf Player of the Day, a current or former Maple Leaf player, every day here on OverDrive. And on Friday, you have a chance to call and name all 5 players in the Leaf lineup. This week, we're giving away tickets to see the Leafs Devils March 26th. Plus, we're throwing in a $250 Vanilla Visa prepaid card. Vanilla Visa prepaid cards are available for purchase at Petro-Canada. Today's Player of the Day is Steve Sullivan. Stevie Sullivan.
Oh.
Yeah, Steve Sullivan is your Maple Leaf Player of the Day. So there you go. All right, Leafs, Caps, Raps, Kings tonight. We'll get into it. Chandler Parsons coming up. We'll play the LeBron, his clip that's gone viral today. It's pretty good. It is pretty good. He's an interesting guy, compelling guy.
He had to come out with a bang and start with a bang.
All right, we'll get into it. We'll see what Chandler Parsons has to say about it, too. OverDrive coming up. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. That's brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Leafs, Caps tonight. TJ Brodie out of the lineup. Ryan Reeves out of the lineup. Raps, Kings tonight. Raps obviously still dealing with a lot of issues themselves. And
you going down to see your boys from Sacramento?
No, I have to avoid them. I can't be anywhere close to them. It would be very troubling. They represent the whole city, right? And the whole history. The Kings, listen, they've been a pretty good team though the last couple of years. I'm a Mike Brown guy, right? I'm a Sabonis guy. I'm a De'Aaron Fox guy. I'm coming around on the Kings, and I think they're in a pretty good position to win tonight. The Raptors, it's not going well. I mean, let's call it what it is.
No,
it's not going well. Yeah, it's really, really ugly. But we're into crunch time now in the NBA. Before you know it, we'll be into the playoffs, and we're into March too. I was down in the States when the brackets were coming out. People going nuts. On the men's side, the women's side, Caitlin Clark.
People don't work. They don't work to fill that stuff out.
It's crazy, man. You were down in Carolina for years, man. They just belly up. Come Thursday.
Couldn't get a spot for lunch. The bar would be empty for lunch. You go in, March Madness, packed. No one at work.
Yeah. Nobody works. Nobody works. All right, here's a guy that did 4 years, played 4 years college ball down in Florida, and was obviously in the NBA for a long time, and co-host of FanDuel TV's Run It Back. Here he is, Chandler Parsons. How you doing, Chandler?
I'm all good. How we doing?
We're doing good, man. When you get to March, do you start, kind of rehashing your college days and playing in the tournament?
Oh, yeah. It's such a fun time, man. Just that experience of playing in the tournament, competing, all the upsets, Cinderellas. I definitely still fill out my bracket every year, and I'm offensively wrong pretty much every year, too. So it never gets easier. But this year, man, it's wide open. I feel like there's some really good teams, but there's also some shocking teams that could, pull the upsets off. So it's always a fun time of the year.
With what's going on in college ball, do you ever try to calculate how much money you'd be making your senior year?
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I think they got to find a balance of it, right? Because I do think in some ways it kind of takes the love away from the game and March Madness in college, and there's less accountability that kids can just transfer now if things don't go their way, and if they get $50,000 more, they can just hop to another school, and they get the COVID year, and they get the year they don't have to sit out a year anymore. So it's interesting. I love that the kids are getting paid and they're getting financially compensated at such an early age, and that part of it I think is great, but it's different. I went to University of Florida because I loved the Gators and I loved what they were doing, and I loved Billy Donovan, and I wanted to be a part of something special there. I didn't go there just because they offered me more money than Tennessee. So it's definitely different. It's unique, and yeah, I think I would have been paid pretty handsomely if it were the time. But there's a lot of other guys that would have been paid a lot more money than me if it was legal back in the day.
When do you think it was greasier, when guys were getting paid under the table and nobody knew about it, or when it's actually allowed? Like, what is the greasier kind of era?
I think it's greasier back then because obviously we had to do things that were a little dicier, and you could get fired, you could get ineligible. It was illegal. So it's definitely a little dicier back then, but again, now it's a crapshoot. Now it's who's got the richest alma maters that wants to provide and support, and it's less recruiting. It's more financial now, which again is great for the kids. It's great for their families, but it definitely takes away, the love of college basketball, in my opinion.
Not implicating anybody or anything, including yourself, but did you hear stories of maybe, handshakes and envelopes and stuff like that?
Yes, I can tell you. If you were a top, 20, 25 player in the country, you aren't just going on a full scholarship. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Wow. Can you imagine, like, some of the stories, and then you think about football, like a 5-star recruit quarterback, what that cat was up to back in the 80s and 90s.
Dude, I saw it. I saw it with my own eyes.
Can you imagine how much money the Tim Tebows, the Johnny Manziels, those guys, and how much money they brought in for the university? So it's weird there, too, because they did create so much financial money and gains for their university and their jersey sales and everything, and they are supposed to get nothing. So that doesn't add up, too. But it's crazy, man. I'm happy for the kids that they're able to, get this type of money this early in their career and their life.
Did you cross over with Tebow at Florida?
I went to school with him for 3 years.
What was that like, man?
That was something, man. It was that was just a great time. Like, I got super close with those guys. Still super close with guys like Joe Hayden, and Urban Meyer was there, and he was the man. So just kind of being able to go to those games and celebrate them and cheer for them while they made their run, and kind of vice versa. And Florida was loaded when I was there, dude. It was Ryan Lochte was the swimmer. He was winning all the gold medals. Callie Rivers, Doc Rivers' daughter, was the volleyball player. She was killing it. Connor Dwyer was the Olympic swimmer. The baseball team was nasty. So it was just fun. Just this small little town, Gainesville, going to all these athletic events, just watching them all dominate was a really cool time.
Amazing. We're chatting with Chandler Parsons, and you're obviously in the media now, and you're doing a lot with FanDuel and FanDuel TV, and you see LeBron and JJ Redick came out with that pod this week, and JJ's out of the game too, but LeBron's still in. He's still LeBron. I mean, he's still the face of the NBA. Like, what do you think his motivation is here to be so heavily involved in modern media when he's still playing?
Yeah, well, I think it's great, first of all, because I think both of those guys, LeBron and JJ Redick, they're both brilliant basketball minds, and they know the game just as well as anybody does. And I love the whole athlete X player-driven media, because no one knows the game like we do. No one knows what it takes and what you have to actually go through mentally and physically. And I think it was interesting watching kind of their first drop of their podcast, like just the different terminology and the kind of the way they talk about certain plays and situations in games is not like a normal media coverage. So I think it's great. And I mean, LeBron, he never ceases to amaze me. The things he's done this year on the court and how he's played at such an elite level, playing so many games, 35, 36 minutes a game, putting up 26, 8, and 7, and doing it in an efficient way. And it's crazy. I don't think we'll ever see a player at his age be as productive as he is. So the fact that he is on a podcast now and has time to be a family man and do all this media stuff while still playing at an elite level is just unbelievable.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is there like an angle here from LeBron? Like, what's his motivation? His agent in the past has talked about 24/7 LeBron, and I think he brings a lot of it on himself. He kind of likes the attention. So is there an angle here, or what's the motivation?
Well, I think everybody wants to be relevant, right? Everyone wants to have a voice. Everyone wants to be seen and be heard. And LeBron, he might be the greatest basketball player of all time, but he still wants those things, like we all do. And like I said, he knows the game. He's a very sharp basketball mind. So I think this is something that everybody now is such a platform in social media. Everyone can make a real career out of this. And it's not like he's doing it for the money or the fame. The guy has, buku of both. It's just, I think he's just using his talent and his platform to kind of speak his truth and what he sees from his eyes. And I think it's really cool. I think that it's crazy. Everyone, as podcasts in general, are kind of getting a little watered down. Everybody has this now, and it's kind of taking away from team and league media outlets and stuff in kind of a way. But I think it's great, and people are seeing that it's turning into a real career post basketball. And LeBron, he's always been this kind of stuff. He's always been in the media. He's always been, talking about how he wants to own a team afterwards and the whole Vegas expansion stuff. And so he's definitely going to be, involved with the NBA or basketball in some capacity, forever.
With Chandler Parsons, and obviously for the last 10, 15 years, it's been LeBron versus Jordan, and that debate, and everyone's got a different viewpoint. And now you look at Victor Wembanyama, who appears to be the next best bet, to have that conversation revolve around him. I mean, maybe Luka gets in there, maybe Anthony Edwards, maybe other players, maybe Giannis is there. I'm not sure how you feel about that, Jokic. But let's say Wemby in 7-8 years has won 4 or 5 MVPs, he's won a couple of titles, and he's up in that upper echelon. Because of his size and the way he plays, the position he plays, do you anticipate he gets compared to like LeBron and Jordan? Or does he have to be in like a different category? Is it like Wilt and Shaq and Hakeem? And like, how are we going to possibly have that debate about Wemby in the next, 7, 10, 15 years?
Yeah, it's interesting because we've really never seen something like him, right? With his size, the way he moves, the way he handles the ball, the way we always talk about and run it back, how this guy, he's going to have a quadruple double soon. And he plays basketball so easy, and he uses his length to block shots, to alter the game. He can do things offensively that you shouldn't be able to do at that size. So it's so young in his career right now that it's hard to say, listen, he's going to be LeBron, he's going to be Michael Jordan. I think he has a chance to be, one of the greats. I do. I think at his age and his skill set, you always worry about, injuries, but barring something that doesn't happen, this kid is on the right path. He's going to continue to get stronger. He's with a great organization, one of the greatest coaches of all time, Popovich. So you see some of the things he does, and just every single night, it's just mind-blowing. It's mesmerizing watching this guy play the game. So it's hard to kind of put a ceiling on him because we've honestly never seen something like him. So it's a little premature to compare him to that, and there's a lot of guys right now in the league that are still, more productive, and the guys like Luka and Kevin Durant and Giannis, those guys that you mentioned. Jokic is probably on path for his, third MVP. So there's a lot of guys that, the league have that's just in great hands, and the talent is at an all-time high. But Wemby he's special, man. It's not fair to even put a cap on him because he's that good.
Yeah, and it's obviously on the Spurs to surround him with the necessary pieces and talent. And, we keep talking about that up here. And, Scotty Barnes is not on the same level as Wemby, obviously. But now he's injured, likely done for the year. And the Raptors are spiraling. I mean, it's a pretty ugly scene up here. After what was a great decade, like a great run, right? They win in 19. They've been very competitive for a long time. But it's ugly now. And I'm curious, what your read is on where the Raps are and how they possibly get out of this.
Well, it's tough. First of all, they're young. They made the big trade from Siakam, which I think in the long run is going to benefit them. I love Emmanuel quickly. I think he's going to be in kind of the bright piece of that trade. RJ Barrett, you know what you get with him, right? But when you have a piece like Scotty Barnes, that's a good start because this is an absolute stud, all-star this year, which he should have got in right away. He shouldn't even have been a replacement. The things he does, too, are very special. He's a two-way player. He can defend. He can switch 1 through 5. He's a guy that if you're looking around the league of starting a team, Scotty Barnes' name is going to be mentioned rather quickly. So the state of their team now, obviously they're a little banged up. They got guys out. They're in a tricky situation where their pick is top 6 protected, and they're sitting right now at 7. So that would be no bueno for them. They do have Indiana's first-round pick, which is top 20. So it's interesting because when you look at their roster, I love guys like Gary Trent. I love guys like Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk. They have talented roster. They just need a little bit more. They got to stay healthy. But besides, honestly, the Bucks and the Celtics, the Eastern Conference is really up for grabs. You see Cleveland get a little hot when they're fully healthy and they're loaded. The Knicks are a thing again, where Jalen Brunson's taking his game to the next level. But I mean, this year, obviously, we're chalking it up. They're 23-45, and hopefully they can keep their pick and they can get a good asset and they have some money in free agency to add a little more pieces. But their future is it's not like they're rebuilding. Their future, they have the talent, they have the pieces. So I think compete as early as next year.
Well, that is music to the ears of Raptors fans. He is Chandler Parsons, a big part of Run It Back, a daily live NBA show hosted by Michelle Beadle, NBA insider Shams Charania, and former NBA stars Chandler Parsons and Lou Williams. You can tune in to Run It Back weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on FanDuel TV and FanDuel TV Plus. It's been awesome having you on, man. We really appreciate you doing this, and hopefully we get a chance to do it again down the road.
All righty, you guys got it.
There it is, Chandler Parsons. Look at that Florida scene back then, man.
Yeah.
Like, even Lochte in the pool, like, that guy would have been a machine on campus back in the day.
Didn't that guy get in trouble in Brazil at the Olympics?
I think he was up to something. Like, he got
He
caught.
did.
He was
It
off the
at a
beaten
gas
path.
station. Wasn't it at a gas
Yeah,
station?
did he get in a fight or something?
Yes. It was a fight at a gas station, I think.
In Brazil.
And it was on camera.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. That was
Timmy
in
Tebow,
16.
everyone thinks that he might have been a gong show in university. No way, man.
No, he
was
wasn't.
going to church in the morning.
Yeah, Tebow wasn't. I don't think he was doing much, man. But
yes, Timmy Tebow. I don't care, like whatever you do, you do. He's up
you know
above.
who wasn't? Urban Meyer.
When he said Urban Meyer, I was like, oh, my God.
What was
Urban
he
Meyer
up to?
was probably, when he mentioned that crew, he was probably out with them.
Right, running the show, the whole operation.
Yeah, dancing in the back.
Oh, yeah. Urban Meyer, he would have been really, really familiar with the scene in Gainesville. And you can't hide, like you said, it's a small town in, was it like north, it's kind of up by Jacksonville, I think, like North Florida. Anyway, that was cool. We appreciate Chandler Parsons coming on. Raptors Kings tonight. Leafs Caps. We'll get to our best bets. Brought to you by FanDuel. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 now up on TSN 2. All right, Raptors Kings coming up here on TSN Radio. Leafs Caps in action tonight. We got the Valspar starting tomorrow. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to prepare a few picks. 3-pack, all right? Because I got to get to my best bets. Brought to you by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I think the Leafs respond tonight. Leafs money line. I like over the number. I think there's going to be goals tonight. Calgary's been giving up some goals. They're coming off a Western road trip. The Leafs on a back-to-back. Might get a little bit spicy tonight. Leafs money line over, and I think a goal in the first 10 minutes. That's my 3-pack. Now, for the Valspar, I'm going to go Spieth outright at 18-1. He loves this track. Nick Taylor, top 10, paying plus 340. Brian Harman, my boy, top 10, paying plus 250. They're both red hot. I like both of them top 10. Little sprinkle on Spieth. 18-1 to win outright. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. FanDuel's goal in the first 10 minutes is the most electric bet in hockey and can be included in a same-game parlay on any NHL game. Please play responsibly. Must be 19 plus and physically located in Ontario. 3-pack. Want a 3-pack for the Valspar? Pretty good crew here. We got Xander.
I'm going to name
JT.
some guys because I think we're at a point now where you don't like the same guys that I do.
Okay.
I'm going to take Adam Hadwin, Keith Mitchell, Keegan Bradley, Sam Burns, and Xander Schauffele.
You're taking Schauffele. Okay. Ooh. He's got really short odds, plus 650. He likes this track, too. He's coming off a great week. All right, I'll take – if you're going to give me JT and Spieth, I'll take him. I'll take my boy Brian Harman.
You understand that your boy JT missed the cut last week?
I understand, and he missed that Riviera. It's concerning. I mean, it's concerning. I'm going to take my boy Min Woo Lee. I love Min Woo Lee, and I love him this week.
Hang on a sec. That's my guy.
You didn't take him.
You didn't take him, right, Noodles?
I didn't hear his name there.
I took Harman, right? I took my guy Harman.
Did you take Harman? I didn't hear you take Harman.
Well, if I didn't, I am now because he's my guy. Black pants, a brown belt, and a white shoe.
With the wiggles, man. He's got to start. He's got to unleash. He has to hit the ball faster.
Dude, that's what he does. He is not, as they said on the broadcast, he is not hitting that rock until he's ready.
Yeah, that is true. All right, so if you're taking Harman, who do I have? I got JT Spieth, Min Woo. I like Nick Taylor. I'll take Doug Gim. I love Doug Gim.
No, you don't, man. You're not taking
All right, I'm not
Dougie.
taking Doug Gim, but I'll take Maverick McNeely. He was close last week. I think he's going to close at some point. He putts better than anyone else on tour. I don't know how many guys we have, Noodles, but...
That's about a 7. There were 7.
7 each? All right, there you go. All right. And if there's any discrepancy, give me Cam Young.
I'll have it.
Give me Cam Young. Yeah, or
and
we'll
if I need a guy, Finau.
All right,
if I need a guy.
If we need a guy. All right, if we need a guy.
All right.
We'll clarify that. All right, what do we see happening in Washington tonight? This feels like a big one for Joseph Wall. I think Matthews, the big guy's got to be cooking tonight.
They have an uncanny ability of when things get just kind of greasy where it's like, what are you guys doing out there? They respond.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't shock me if Hayes, you say tomorrow to start the show, That's all they got to do. Like, it was a complete game. They competed. They looked organized. All the stuff the coach wants to say and all the things he wants to see on the ice. They generally respond because they coughed up the lead, and then that performance last night, which I really didn't like. I was just like, what is that?
They were
like,
flat.
what are we?
Yeah, it was not good.
No energy, X's and O's. The whole shooting match was terrible. So I think they respond tonight with just like where everybody realizes they got to be way better, and they will be.
Yeah, they got to play with some emotion. That's what it is.
Wall's going to be fascinating, Noodles, to see what he brings to the table, because I don't think it's been fantastic for him off of injury. So let's see what you got, because it's almost like whatever guy can just have a great performance and then kind of run with it, you keep running with it. So it's kind of an opportunity for him.
It is an opportunity for him. He needs a good game. He's, like you said, coming off a couple losses against Boston, really good team, but you want to get back in the winning ways and force the coach to think, okay, who am I starting Saturday against Edmonton type of thing.
That's exactly what you got to do, because that's the big one coming, right? Like McDavid's rolling through town. The Oilers are cooking right now, and then you got to go to Carolina. They might be the hottest team in the league.
Yeah.
And you got Carolina on Sunday. Like, this is a big weekend. Get this one tonight, because if you lose tonight and then you go through a tough weekend, Monday may not be fun. Like, this is one you want to get. You got to respond tonight. Not a lot of travel, Philly to D.C. It's like an hour tops.
Train.
Yeah, probably taking the train down, and it's get ready to go tonight. So we'll see. We'll see what comes of it. Leafs Caps tonight. Raptors and Kings coming up here on TSN Radio as well. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out today. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in. TV, radio, podcast, web, we appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
Briante Lasagna Delicioso, 4 p.m.
We'll chat then.